Ever wondered why some people find it easy to stick to new habits and for others it feels impossible? I'm joined by productivity coach Hayley Watts to explore the psychology of habits and uncover the small changes that can make a big difference in this episode of Architecture Business Club, the weekly podcast for small firm founders who want to build their dream business in architecture and enjoy more freedom, flexibility and fulfillment in what they do. I'm John Clayton, your host. Having spent over 20 years working in architecture, I know how hard it can be to explain your services so people truly understand and value what you do. Many firms struggle with this, but by sharing your stories on podcasts, you can become the trusted voice in your market, grow your brand, and attract much better clients. We can help you with everything from podcast strategy and launch, production and management, podcast hosting and guesting, through to promoting and growing your show. If you'd like to discover how podcasting could benefit your business, click the link in the show notes to book a no obligation chat about working with me. Or if you're interested in being a guest on this show, email John, that's Jon, at architecturebusinessclub.com. Now, let's learn how you can create good habits for more success. Hayley Watts is a productivity and habits coach and trainer. She helps people who are juggling too much to get clear on their priorities, reduce their stress, and help them grow their businesses. She's been delivering training around productivity and people management for the last 10 years and now helps people who are running their own businesses to get focused. To connect with Hayley, head over to LinkedIn via the link in the show notes. Hayley, welcome to Architecture Business Club.
Hi there, welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's great to have you here. Hayley, what do you get up to in your free time? Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of the productivity work that you've been doing?
I do. I love to get deeply engrossed in a good novel. And my son has set me a challenge this year to see if I can read 100 books in a year. So that's quite an undertaking, but it gives me a good excuse, right, to sit and read.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and to balance that kind of sitting around and reading, I'm also learning to ice skate. Which,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's quite nerve-wracking in your 40s to learn to ice skate. I'm very worried about injuring myself, but I'm making progress and I'm enjoying it. So that's the main thing, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Do you have any favourite genres of novels?
Oh, I've recently been getting into a bit of historical fiction. So I'm quite enjoying some of that because I never really paid attention to history in school. And learning about it as a story kind of brings it to life a bit more. So I'm really enjoying that. But I've also relatively recently been introduced to fantasy through my book club. So yeah, that's cool as well. Just reading something a bit different to what I might otherwise have picked up.
I love that when you discover something new like that, and then it sort of opens up this whole different world that you didn't know about.
Yes.
I find that with music. I love to read, but music's one of my big interests. But my daughter, she's an avid reader. She gets through a ridiculous number of books. It's unbelievable. You're here to talk about creating good habits, which can help lead to more success in business. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. Forming new habits can be hard for many people, though. I wondered why you think that some people maybe are better at forming and sticking with habits than others.
They definitely are. And I'm one of the people that's probably not very good at it, which got me interested in this area of habits. Gretchen Rubin's book, The Four Tendencies, she introduces this idea that there are 4 different personality types in relation to habits. And she talks about the rebels, the people who don't like creating new habits, don't like being told what to do. She talks about the questioners, the people who don't want to do something or take action unless they're really brought into the idea and can get all their questions answered. And I know friends who are really good at exercising, really good at eating healthily. And it's often because they've done the research, they've understood, they've had a lot of questions about, well, why should I don't know, green vegetables every day? And they've gone away and researched it and learned about it. And what they've learned has motivated them. So they're the questioners. Then there's me. I'm an obliger. For me, if I've got some external accountability, Like if I said to you, John, I'm going to go and, I don't know, swim every day for the next week. If I knew that you might ask me about it, or even that you were thinking I was doing that, that's more likely to motivate me than me just going, oh, I know that's good for my health. So I'm an obliger. If it's for somebody else, I'm more likely to do it. So I know that, so I can make that accountability external. And then the other category of people who are the upholders, and they're really good at following the rules and instructions, and they're good at saying no when they can't do something. But if they do commit to doing something, it's going to happen. And they're the ones who are wondering, like, why do other people not do it? It's a bit of a mystery. Those things are fluid, right? There might be times where you move from one to the other, but an upholder is not likely to start behaving like a rebel. Me as an obliger, there might be times where I'm a bit more like a questioner or like a rebel. So we kind of move around depending on different factors and different things. But I love Gretchen's book. It's fascinating. It really got me thinking about, why some people are good at this and why some people, like me, really struggle.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to have to Google that book and check that out. I definitely would like to read a bit more about that. I think I'm probably quite like you, Hayley, with my habits. Yeah, I think if I have some external accountability, that's definitely helped me before. Something as well, actually setting a date, that has worked when I've actually picked a date and set a date for something. And I do rely quite a lot on like a diary and a calendar to help me plan things, which leads me on actually to a question I wanted to ask you about the different ways that you've noticed people using their diaries in relation to this.
Yeah. And I think it's really common, I think, for people to put into their calendar, oh, I'm going to do that thing on this day. I'll do it then. And that works, I think, as a technique when you use it sparingly. But I think when you use it for everything, because there's nowhere else to put the stuff, your calendar becomes really overcrowded. And what you have a tendency to do is say, well, this thing isn't a priority today or even this week, so I'll put it into my calendar in 3 or 4 weeks' time. And then that 3 or 4 weeks' time rolls around and you just dismiss everything that comes up in the calendar. Because, well, that's not priority today either. I do a lot of work with people around managing high workloads. And I think when people are putting things in their calendar for everything, it tends to feel overwhelming and people stop engaging with it. Now, there will be exceptions, of course, there's always exceptions. What I find tends to work better for people is if you know that you're a morning person or you know you do your best work in the middle of the afternoon, like whenever your zone is to be able to concentrate and focus, if you can block out some concentrating and focusing time and then decide nearer the time what the priority is, I find that tends to work better for people rather than just putting everything in the calendar.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I've done that classic thing of putting items on my calendar and then they've just got moved. And then the next week, the task is still there because it's that thing of, oh, well, that doesn't feel like the priority today, so I'll just keep sliding it back.
Yes.
And there has been some occasions when there's been some tasks that for weeks and weeks and weeks have just got pushed along into the following week. So that's something that I would definitely like to work on improving for sure.
Yeah. And there's loads of tools and technology that's out there that helps us to organise our workload better. Like equally, pen and paper and spreadsheets, they work fine too. It's just a case of finding something that you enjoy using and sticking with it. And I think everybody uses a calendar. Everybody knows how they work. So that feels like an easy thing to use. And if you've got a workload that is quite repetitive and predictable, maybe that works. If your role is to send out invoices and respond to emails and you aren't working on anything more strategic or anything that has unexpected, queries from clients that might take up quite a lot of time, then it might work in those kind of more administrative type jobs. But I think for people who are running their own businesses, there's probably a bit more going on. And like you say, you're going to kind of end up bumping it and looking to do, just pushing it, which feels a bit demotivating.
Absolutely. Small business owners are wearing so many hats usually. Interesting. You mentioned there about analog as well, sort of notepad and diaries, that sort of thing. that's something that I started doing last year, actually, was using a bullet journal in addition to like an online calendar, that sort of thing. So mine approach is a little bit of a combination now, sort of part analog, part digital, but it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, I think that's the best approach. It's about doing something that works for you. Yeah, there's all these fancy apps out there, and somebody messaged me a few days ago saying, "Oh, I found a great AI tool to do this." But the problem with that is, those well, I've been using it. I was like, "Yeah, but do you feel any better, or do you still feel stressed and overwhelmed?" They're like, "Oh, yeah, it still feels really stressful," because they don't really know what's in there, because they're the AI has done it for them. So yeah, using a bit of both is good. I tend to use an electronic tool for my kind of all the things I need to do and think about. But then each morning I will pull out from that tool, what am I going to work on today? And that goes on a Post-it note. So I don't look at all the other stuff that needs doing. I just look at the top 3 things. And I give myself 3 things because I want to leave a bit of capacity in the day to deal with the unexpected, or the proactive things that I want to do each week, or each day, that are different to the more movable tasks. So yeah, that helps me to just have my top 3 for the day on a Post-it note.
Oh, I love that. That's very analog, the old school Post-it note, but I love that for the being able to just focus on that. That leads nicely on to my next question, actually, Hayley, which is, how do you recommend we create a new habit?
Yeah, great question. So I've done a lot of reading around habits, and I've worked with a lot of people around how to formulate ones that work for them. So I think, the first thing is deciding what is the new habit going to be. The second thing is, how do we make it really small? So in BJ Fogg's book, Tiny Habits, he talks about the importance of making a habit really small. So we started off our conversation with me getting all excited about, I love reading and novels, but I'm not so good at reading the non-fiction books, the self-development, the business books, that kind of stuff. I find those a bit tougher going because your attention span needs to be a bit better, right? So my tiny habit was, I'm going to read at least a page a day. I don't think there have been any days where I've only read a page. But if I pick up the book with the intention of, I'm just going to read a page, I'll get into it by that time. And if I only read a page, that's fine. I've met my goal. So it's making it small and then pairing it with something that you do already. So it's called habit stacking, where you pair it up. So when I turn on my bedroom light in the morning, that's when I pick my book up to read at least a page of my nonfiction book. So because I'm pairing it with something that I do already, it makes it easier to do. And then when I've done that, I give myself a little, congratulations, a little moment of recognition that I've done this thing and instilled this new habit. And that can help us to want to keep going with the habit. So yeah, making it small and pairing it up with something that you do already, and just recognizing that you've achieved something and you've done it.
I like that. It's celebrating that little win.
Yeah.
And often I think we try and do something new. We try and do too much.
Yes.
So I love that idea of just making it something really small and celebrating that afterwards. It's a great suggestion.
Yeah, sometimes we can try and do too many new things at once. So like if you're moving house or starting a new job, then maybe that isn't a good opportunity to change a few things at once. But if it's just day to day, then maybe kind of doing those in slow increments and just visualizing, okay, well, I'm going to read when I turn the light on in the morning. And just picture yourself in your head, like turning on the light, picking up the book, turning on the light, picking up the book. So you're kind of rehearsing it in your head so you remember to do it at the right time.
And that way, then we're less likely to get overwhelmed with all of the things that we've got going on. What do you think causes people to feel overwhelmed by their to-do lists?
Very often when I start working with people on organising their workload, people say, well, I have got a to-do list. And then they'll pull out a scrappy piece of paper from the bottom of their bag and a notebook. And there's an app that they started using, and they've put a flag on some emails as well. And there are so many different lists in so many different places. That feels overwhelming before you even get started. So the first thing would be having everything in one place, whether that's an electronic tool or a bullet journal or, whatever it might be. It's choosing a tool and really committing to spend a you do need to spend a little bit of time setting something up, but it's well worth it in the end. And that's something that I help people with, is setting up a tool. I do that with teams of people, where they do it together as a group, or with individuals if they're running their own business, or if they're senior executives in firms. So yeah, I think that sense of feeling overwhelmed by the to-do list comes from not having one place to go to decide what to do next. So I think that helps. And then being able to break it down and section it in different ways. So, if you've got a list of that's just massive and goes on forever, it doesn't feel good. So being really clear on what your priorities are for the week is helpful. I also have within my list, I kind of categorize some of those tasks depending on where I'm going to be when I do them. I deliver quite a lot of management and productivity training. So I spend a bit of time on trains. I have a list of things that I can do. It doesn't matter where I am, usually kind of fairly quick and easy type things. So if I'm on the train, or if I arrive somewhere early for a meeting, I can pull up those quick tasks that I can do anywhere. So I might categorize things based on where I am, or even what mood I'm in. Maybe I'm in the mood to just do something. I could do something creative, or decision making, or thinking. There might be other times of the day where my brain is more suited to doing some really easy admin tasks that don't require all of my brain cells to be working so well.
So part of that is having self-awareness of your own energy levels, and, so those internal factors, and then externally thinking about your movements, where you're going to be, whether you're at your desk, whether you've got time on the train, or waiting for a meeting to begin, or that sort of thing.
Yeah,
that's a really interesting way to think about categorizing and breaking down that big overwhelming to-do list.
And if somebody writes something on their website, writes something on their to-do list, and they put website, that might be quite a big job to update a business website. But if somebody writes on their to-do list, read the text on the homepage and decide what I want to change, that feels a bit easier. So breaking it down into what's next, rather than the overall massive big task that needs to be done. What are you going to do to just kind of be nudging that thing forwards?
I think sometimes there's some confusion between tasks and projects, that actually something like, that task to redo the website, that's actually a really big project, potentially. Even a simple website, there is a huge list of individual tasks to work through to complete that. But we just complete website, one task.
And I guess with a lot of these tasks, it's writing complete website, or do marketing, or social media. They're never done. There's always more that you can do. So what is it that you want to achieve from doing those things? So reminding ourselves as the goal can be helpful as well.
I love that. So how do we decide what task or activity, how do we decide which one of those to work on next? Remember, don't forget to join the waitlist for our membership community, where you can meet other business owners who want the same thing as you. A thriving business that gives you more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. Just go to architecturebusinessclub.com/waitlist, or click the link in the show notes and enter your details so you don't miss out on this amazing opportunity to improve your business and your life. And if you're enjoying the show, then please leave a 5-star review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Now back to the show.
So I think it's about thinking about our energy levels. So if I've not slept very well and I'm feeling a bit groggy, a bit under the weather, then I might just go to my list and pull off some easy things to do. But if I'm on it and I'm feeling good, I can look at my list and say, right, these are my top priorities. These are the what's next actions that are going to move that forward. I'm going to do that. I try and get the things done that are top priority first, because then I feel like, I'm achieving something. Does that help? Is that what you do?
Yeah, that definitely does help. Yeah, I think the way that I approach it is I have sort of changed my approach and experimented quite a bit with this. But the way that I've been doing it more recently, I did some self-reflection on my energy levels throughout the day. And then I try to match. Obviously, there's some things that have set deadlines, but then there's a lot of other tasks that are just ongoing things. And some of those I find easier to do and others harder. So I've have some times throughout the day where I'll say, well, any, not necessarily more difficult, but anything that demands more of my energy, more of my attention, that I need to be kind of on it to do, that kind of deep thinking, creative work, strategic work. I will try and do that in the same part of the day when I know that my energy levels are higher. And then anything else that I can do more easily, like admin, bookkeeping, checking, replying to emails, that sort of thing, that can be kind of at the time of day when my energy levels are lower and I'm kind of feeling tireder. What I have found as well is that whilst meetings, like video calls, meetings, and even podcast interviews, in the main, I enjoy, in particular podcast interviews, I really enjoy doing them. I do often find any kind of thing that involves a video call, I do find it tiring, but equally, it's also kind of energizing in some way. So it's strange that, like, initially I would try and schedule those for that part of the day where I would do the kind of the deep work, if you want to call it that. But what I realized is that actually I can actually do it at the other time of day. And actually there's something about it. Maybe it's a little bit of adrenaline before we hit record, that it kind of gives me an energy boost. And I am able to do those calls and meetings and recordings at a time of day when I would normally be feeling less energetic. So I've realized that that was a little hack for me to be able to squeeze more productivity out of my day.
Yeah. I think of them as energizer tasks, like what's going to energize me. For me, probably around 3:30 in the afternoon, my energy levels dip. So that's a good time to pull out an energizer task, or even to just take a break, get outside, move around, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. That makes a big difference. People often say to me, like, how do I get my energy levels to be really good all day? It's like, well, you're not a robot. So then they're not going to be like that. You'll have peaks and troughs. And it's about, what you just described is a perfect description of how to embrace those kind of peaks and troughs in our day by just kind of matching the tasks to where we're at.
Yeah, it's definitely been working for me a lot better. I think as well, just managing expectations of what is reasonable to achieve in a day. I think that you mentioned there, like, not being a robot, like none of us are ever going to work at 100% productivity. And actually for the average small business owner, like your productivity levels will typically be lower than a regular employee because you're juggling so many other things. That's my experience of it anyway. But I wrestled with that for a long time, thinking that I would be able to get far more what I would call productive work done in a day. And it's only in recent years, after a lot of self-reflection and learning a bit more about productivity, that I've realized actually I was not being realistic at all. Yeah. So it's, yeah.
And often business owners will say, oh, but the thing is, I love my job and my business. I find it all energizing. And it's like, well, that's great, but you can only sustain that level of throwing more hours at it for a certain period of time, because there will come a point where you do get burnt out, you do get tired. And when that starts to happen, you start to make less good decisions that aren't in the best interest of your business. So I love that you started off asking today about, like, interests outside of work. Like, we need to make sure as people running our own businesses that we have those, and that we are doing something that's not work, because that helps us to recharge rather than just go on standby.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about planning for the week and our sort of approaches to that. Maybe we could dig into that a little bit more, because, I mean, planning can be a little bit boring for some people. Yeah. They maybe struggle with that. So how can we make ourselves do that planning that's necessary for us to get the things done that we want to get done?
Yeah, for me, minimum bit of planning for the week is to look ahead at what I've got coming up in the next 3 weeks and identify is there anything I need to do to plan for that. I have a virtual assistant who helps me in my business. So, like, what do I need to delegate to her? But also look back a week. What did I do last week? What conversations or meetings did I have? Have I captured the actions from those? Or oh, have I done them? So I think this is something a lot of people find very difficult, because it means when you're doing the planning, you're not actually doing the work, and that feels counterintuitive. So on a Monday morning, I run a group called Organise and Thrive. And the idea of that is it's a very brief kind of mini planning session, but everybody will do sort of the minimum to get them organised and focused for the week. And I experimented with it in September last year, where I just said to people in my network, come for free, let's test it for a month. And I had some amazing feedback. Like, people literally said, this changed my life. This was the difference between it feeling overwhelming and too much to me feeling in control. So we start at 9:10. We're finished by 5 to 10. And I just take people through some of the questions the same each week, because, you know, that's 3 weeks ahead, 1 week back. That's really important. Get people to think about their priorities, what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. And then there are some different questions that I throw in each week. They might be about well-being. They might be about priorities, and how do we reframe perhaps some of the things that people have been struggling with. So particularly for us obligers, I mentioned the obliger thing earlier, knowing that they're coming onto a call and they're going to have somebody talk them through what they need to do, that's a commitment that they're making, and that gives them that accountability. And I think it's a bit more fun because people get to know each other a little bit in that group as well. So I think that helps. I think the other thing that can help is just having a reward. Sometimes I do my weekly planning. I have a list that I call the Sorting My Life Out checklist, which I can send you a link to that if it's helpful for people who are listening. Sometimes I might go to a coffee shop and work my way through that and just do it in a different environment. Somewhere I'm not going to be distracted is important, just to have that uninterrupted time. And I always feel lighter afterwards. It's that remembering it will feel better when I've done it, even if starting it doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big fan of going to a different environment, particularly like a local coffee shop.
No.
I find that there'll be some days when I'll be trying to work on something and it will feel like I'm trying to wade through treacle. I'm really struggling with it.
Yeah.
But that quick change of environment, the task that I may have been struggling on, I get done in a fraction of the time in a different environment, or to have the opportunity to do the planning, to then be able to then come back to my desk and then get the work done, knowing with confidence that I'm working on the right things because I've taken some time out of my day to do the planning work somewhere else. And your Monday morning group, that sounds absolutely fantastic. Organise and Thrive. So there'll be a link in the show notes to your website, so that listeners, you'll be able to go and find that. If you're listening now, I think that sounds good. Just go and check out the link and go and give it a try. Cool. Hayley, this has been awesome. Really enjoyed this. What would be the main thing that you'd like everyone to take away from this conversation?
Oh, lovely question. I think if you know that external accountability is something that helps you with developing new habits, then think about where you may be able to get some of that external accountability from. I mean, there's lots of groups and communities that business owners might join, but it might just be buddying up with a friend to say, this is my accountability thing. What are you going to do next week? And I think that habit stacking, I'm really giving a bit of thought to what are the new habits that you want to create. You mentioned earlier the importance of reflecting and just spending a bit of time thinking, actually, what's going to move the dial for me? What's going to help me get to the next level? And then prioritizing that, because it's really hard in the day-to-day and all those different things that we're responsible for as business owners to focus on those top priorities. Carving out some time to be proactive rather than reactive. Sorry, you said one thing and I've given you several.
Oh, that's all right. We're all for some bonus tips and value in there. That's awesome. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about habits and productivity that we haven't already covered?
No, I don't think so. I just think if this is something that people are struggling with, like, that's normal. Lots of people struggle with this. It's not something we're taught how to do at school. It's something we find out and learn the hard way. So my goal is to help make it easier for people. But if you are struggling, if you are feeling overwhelmed, there are things that you can do. It doesn't have to be this way. People often discover that through getting stressed and feeling burnt out. We don't want you to get to that point.
Oh, thank you, Hayley. I have a question that I want to ask you. It's nothing related to our topic, but I like to ask all of the guests on the show. I love to travel and to discover new places. I was just wondering if you could share one of your favourite places and what you love about it, and it can be somewhere near or far.
Oh, wonderful question. There are several places that come up, but Barcelona is one of my favourite places. I really like Gel Park, which is the Antoni Gaudi kind of park. I like the fact that it's an open space and really kind of brings art and nature together. I've been there a couple of times and I always find it really peaceful. And, all those mosaics, it's all bright and colourful. So, yeah, I really enjoy that. And the weather's usually nice too.
Yeah, Barcelona, fantastic place. I went there, it's probably, it must be over 20 years ago now, in my backpacking days many years ago. And I do recall seeing some culture while I was there, doing some cultural things, visiting some interesting buildings, but also there was a lot of alcohol involved at the time.
Yes,
yeah,
right.
It was one of those sort of trips away, but it was a lot of fun. And I always thought, I'd love to go back there one day.
Yeah. I went for a university field trip. So that was a long time ago. And then went with some friends a few years later. There was a lot of sangria involved and just such beautiful places. I love it.
Awesome. Hayley, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Really appreciate you coming and sharing your expertise. Could you just remind everybody where they can find you online?
Yeah, so my website is inspireful.co.uk and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. I'll be wearing purple in my profile picture. It'd be great to connect on LinkedIn. Love to hear any questions that people have and connect with people and hear a bit more about what they're working on.
Awesome. I'll make sure that those links go in the show notes. Thanks again, Hayley.
Thank you very much.
Next time, I explore how you can stay positive about your business, even when you're feeling down. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Architecture Business Club. If you liked this episode, think other people might enjoy it, or just want to show your support for the show, then please leave a glowing 5-star review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It would mean so much to me and makes it easier for new listeners to discover the show. And if you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode. If you want to connect with me, you can do that on most social media platforms. Just search for @Mr. John Clayton. The best place to connect with me online, though, is on LinkedIn. You can find a link to my profile in the show notes. Remember, running your architecture business doesn't have to be hard, and you don't need to do it alone. This is Architecture Business Club.